Demon Slayer is full of objects, places, and characters inspired by, or at least very resemblant to many aspects of Japanese culture and folklore, and some of them are unbelievable. So today, I'm going to share 13 of them with you. I'm sure some of them will blow your mind. As an anime with a supernatural touch in its universe, it has a lot of creatures inspired by and even directly taken from Japanese culture. But we'd spend all day talking about Japanese folklore references in the characters, so let's just talk about 5 of them. 1. Yahaba is definitely inspired by the Tenome, a blind guy with eyes in his hands. It is said that when he was a human, the Tenome got killed and deeply wished he had a pair of functioning eyes to see the face of those who attacked him, even if it was in the palms of his hands. So he came to live as a yokai, a type of Japanese spiritual being, with eyes in the palms of his hands just as he wished. Oh, and he eats humans too. 2. The tongue demon is very similar to the Akaname, which is also a yokai. It lives in the dirtiest of places and mostly eats the filth in bathrooms. So even though they don't share the same diet, you can clearly see that the Akaname was a perfect reference for it. 3. Louis' spider family seems to be inspired by the Tsuchigumo, which is a giant spider that usually lives in caves, forests, and mountains. It mainly feeds on humans, but can also survive eating animals around. The word Tsuchigumo is also used as a derogatory term for clans. Quite fitting, huh? 4. Did you know that poor Kyogai is based on a god? His name is Raijin, and his power is also related to drums. But instead of moving rooms and creating slashes, this guy makes the sound of thunder. How ironic to be inspired by a god while having such faith and luck. 5. And of course, I couldn't end this list without talking about Daki. You see, Daki is probably inspired by not one, but 2 yokai, the Rokurokubi and the Jatai. The Rokurokubi are women whose necks stretch at night while they're asleep. They're not that violent and live mainly off of lamp oil, but there is a variation of them called the Nukekubi, whose head completely detaches, and this one is way more violent and feeds on blood. And as far as I could find, the tales of the Nukekubi and the Rokurokubi stood out in the Edo period, which is the period in which Gyutaro and Daki turned into demons. I know I already named 2 yokai, but they're a variation of one another. The second yokai I want to talk about is the Jatai, an obi that comes to life at night to strangle men. See, the mixture of these 2 is an almost perfect description of Daki. 6. You won't believe this one. The buffed mice actually exist. These mice live thanks to some experimentation by taking out the enzyme that limits muscle growth. They also showed higher bone density. They could run faster and cover twice the distance of an average mouse. These really are super mice. But not only that, they are being sent to space. Let me explain. In space, muscle volume and stuff tends to lower due to microgravity, so they were sent to see if they showed any changes in their muscles. Well, space didn't affect the mighty mice at all, so they're not only powerful on Earth, but could conquer space if they wanted to. Who would have thought? Not many people know about this, but the Demon Slayer Corps actually gets their katanas from Mini Katana's website, and anyone can visit it and buy their own katana. It was discovered by Kaguya while watching one of our videos since he was already subscribed. And if the master subscribed, why wouldn't you? 7. Some of you may have noticed the similarities between the Gakuran, a famous school uniform in Japan, and the Demon Slayer Corps uniform. But did you know that the Gakuran was also inspired by military uniforms? In my research, I found various answers to which military uniform exactly was it inspired by, but what we can assume is that it definitely has a Western inspiration since Ran in Gakuran stands for the West. That, as far as I understand, could just be the Netherlands because that was the only Western country Japan had contact with in the Meiji era. So it is a great possibility. However, I also read that it came from the French, and Wikipedia said that according to old-fashioned textbooks, it comes from the Imperial Japanese uniform, but that it is actually derived from the Prussian Waffenrock, or the Christian clergy cassock. So I'm not 100% sure where it comes from, but it's definitely inspired by the army. 8. When I first saw the wisteria flowers in the final selection, I was astonished by how beautiful and ethereal they looked. Turns out there are wisteria trees all around the world, and there's this awesome place called the Ashikaga Flower Park, and I swear that I could easily see Kaguya's son and daughter greeting everybody there. 9. It is said that the locomotive class 8620 is the model that inspired the Mugen Train, and it is precisely from the Taisho era. It can be found in the Kyoto Railway Museum and the Muko Railway SL Kyotoku. But after the film's total success, the Kyushu Railway Company put on service a fairly accurate replica of the train. It even had Infinity written on the front. It lasted for about 23 days, during which you could go inside, buy merch, and you could even go from Kumamoto Station to JR Hakata Station. 10. Now, let's talk about the boulder Tanjiro slices before going to the final selection in Mount Fujikasane. There are various candidates out there for the reference to the boulder, but two of them genuinely piqued my curiosity. First, I'll talk about Suzuiwa. This giant boulder can be found at the Shohachiman Shrine in Kitakyushu, and I think it worked as the first inspiration for the boulder thanks to its similarity and also because Kitakyushu is the second largest city of the Fukuoka prefecture, which is where Gotouge is from, and the similarities got too accurate for it not to be a reference. As you can see, it is also a giant stone split in half, and the legend says that Yagyu Munetoshi, a very skilled samurai, did this when fighting with a Tengu. While fighting, the Tengu suddenly vanished without leaving any trace, and the boulder received Yagyu's strike instead, splitting it in half. The Itoseki getting split sounds similar to how Tanjiro managed to slice the boulder in his training. Both swordsmen were battling against a supernatural being, and when they were about to give it the final strike, boom, the being was gone, and the boulder was split open. And there's also the fact that Yagyu was fighting a Tengu, and Urokodaki wore a Tengu mask. So that seems like the correct answer to me. 11. Most of the Demon Slayer's hometowns are actual places in Japan, but I'll focus on two, Tanjiro's and Inousuke's. As we all know, they were both raised in the mountains. Maybe not in the same way, but you get the point. Tanjiro lived in Mount Kumotori, while Inousuke is from Mount Odake. And interestingly enough, they're both very close to the same city, Okutama. All this time, they weren't that far from each other, and they didn't even know. It is said that Okutama was the town Tanjiro went to sell charcoal in the first episode. And after Demon Slayer saw the light, something odd and even dangerous started happening. Some fans began to go wanting to get to the top of the mountain, but in sandals, t-shirts, and shorts, which is not what you should be wearing to do these types of trips. The Okutama Visitor Center is not against people trying to do so, but asks the visitors to at least come prepared. This is a journey that even experienced mountain climbers find difficult to make. These people risking their lives to see the actual location is gonna get us in trouble. 12. Look at this place. Doesn't it look like the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters? This is the Northern Culture Museum, where you can find a beautiful garden with structures more than 250 years old, and many activities to do there. It used to be the residence of a wealthy local farming family known as the Ito family, and now it's open to the public. They even have some wisteria vines in their gardens, so it works perfectly as a reference for the headquarters. 13. Lastly, these papers with symbols and certain powers attributed were actually pretty common in Onmyodo, a Japanese system of science and astronomy, but also magic. There were even some symbols to protect houses from demons. What a shame that that protection didn't work so well for Tamayo's clinic. Which fact surprised you the most? Would you like to visit any of the actual locations? Let me know in the comments section. If you liked this video, you can leave a thumbs up. And also, subscribe to Mini Katana for more Demon Slayer facts, rankings, backstories, and so much more. That was it for today. Thank you for watching.